And so I think we've got a good amount of folks here. And so let me do our official introduction. This is Milyon. I'm the Vice President and Dean of Admission and Financial Aid, my colleague.
And I'm Dr. K. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the Vice President for Student Life, which means I handle a lot of the things outside the classroom, but I'm also the person that makes sure you have a good time at college.
And one of the things that we promised you is that we're going to give you a really authentic perspective of Reed, what we have to offer, what our community is like. And so this is kind of a fun session that we actually started in COVID, if you remember, Dr. K.
Oh, yes.
Um, we came online and we said, give it to us. All the tough questions, all the things we were scared to ask, all the things parents bite their nails about, because we think we got good answers for it. You can judge for yourself. But you've sent a list of questions. I'm going to go through some of those, and then there are going to be things that come out. And you'll notice all of you have this Q&A function, and it allows you to ask questions. And one of the things I do to manage that is I'll look at them and I'll hit dismiss if I know I'm going to answer it, if I know I'm going to come around to it. So if I don't get around to it right away, don't worry. I usually will circle back. But yeah, I think we will cover a lot of ground. So again, even since I did that, we've got some folks here. But Dr. K, let me ask you a few of these questions to kick
Uh-oh.
off with.
Uh-oh.
Let me see the most difficult one. Actually, no, these are pretty good. Here's one. And you might not say this just for international students, but we've got someone who's sort of curious about the pros and cons for international students living in the residence halls. But I would say in general, living in residence halls, why is that a big deal? Do we
Yeah.
like that? Don't we like that?
Yeah. I
What's
would just say, first of all, living on campus is one of the best things you can do when you're in college. And even so, we at Reed, we guarantee housing for our first and second year students, which means you also are required to live on campus as well for your first and second year. And I think a big part of that is around the community that you build, developing new relationships with folks, getting connected, getting plugged in. You're developing new ways of being and doing things. So your routines are a little different. And so to be on campus, you're off on your own for the first time in some ways. And so I can tell you right now, not a lot of students know how to cook. So you have obviously the dining hall and all that good stuff around. I shouldn't just say, I'm generalizing that a lot of students don't know how to cook. But let me just tell you, we just had our Great Reedy Bake Off, and the students won the Bake Off. So they cooked in the residence hall, and they won based on the things that they baked in their residence hall. So I'm like, okay, well, we got some folks that got some skills. But I also just say everything's just so close in proximity have to go too far. All the things are taken care of. You have internet, you have water, you have, there about other bills on top of that. So that sense of having to kind of grow up really fast right after leaving home, you can ease into that. But overall, I would say you got people here who are here to support you. We got professional staff that also live on. So if things are happening in the middle of the night or you can get into a situation that you need support, we have folks here on campus that can help as well. So again, there's a lot of perks to living on campus. So yeah,
It's huge. And we know increases student satisfaction. Like
that too.
they
That
love being in community is a huge thing. Let's see. I've got another question. This one is for me. How competitive is it to be admitted? As an example of the statistics of the class of 2028, I think that's last year's class. So for the class of 2028, the admit rate was 24%. And so, in and of itself, what does that number mean? I have this session called Navigating Selective College Admission. So to be a selective college, your admit rate needs to be just below 50%. And if you're below 50%, you're a selective school. Highly selective schools are schools that are below, I think it's 35%. But the reason I started talking about this, because there's actually very few schools that are in sort of that really high selectivity where less than 10% are getting admitted. I think it's 31 schools of the 4,500 schools in the United States are in that category. And then of the schools that are sort of similar to us, I think there's maybe 100 of us that have an admit rate like that. But the thing that's different is we're really looking for students who are going to be excited about learning in the classroom, excited about engagement. We're looking for people who are going to be kind. And so, in terms of what we're looking for in terms of human qualities, if you feel like you're curious, if you have questions after class about what you learned and you want to go up and talk to that professor, Reed might be a really good fit for you. And kind of one of the things I've been telling people is, people used to say readings are quirky, and that was like it. And I say, hey, that does not do it justice because I also don't want students to try to create some quirkiness in the application process to be a good fit. Here's the thing: at Reed are curious. They want to be engaged. If you look at the cafeteria on campus, those students may not have sat together in high school, but they sit together here. And so they come from all walks of life, and you can be a perfectly boring, smart student and be a really good fit for Reed. Half of our students are varsity athletes. They've been involved in chess club. And so what's most important is that you care about other people and you're curious. That's what makes a reading.
Mhm.
Dr. K, I got a question for you. What's transportation like for Reed students who do not have a personal vehicle? How
Yes.
versatile is it?
Yeah, great question. Um, I would say one of the things that students you'll find that most students don't really have cars on campus, and in fact, Portland is a very sustainable city, and so they don't encourage lots of vehicles around. But one of the things is that we have public transit on both sides of campus, so students will take the bus to places. Most things are walkable in the neighborhood. You know, Trader Joe's is just around the corner. Students walk to Trader Joe's regularly. You can walk up to one of the Safeway to get medicine, things of that nature, all that good stuff. The train picks up just a few blocks from campus as well. So things are just so accessible here. You don't really need a car. And then for students, oftentimes students go up to the cabin, the ski cabin up at Mount Hood, and oftentimes folks can jump in on carpooling or even when we're doing coordinated trips and things of that nature, we have vans and things of that nature to take students up to the mountain. So there's a lot of different things to get into here. And again, being people, I don't think folks realize Portland also in the city, there's so many hiking trails and things of that nature. You don't really have to go too far to get to your nearest hiking trail or to the nearest, museum or whatnot. Like everything's all here. Again, you don't have to go too far. But if you do want to go, we got ways for you to get there. We also have cars that folks rent as well on campus. And so we have a couple cars that folks rent and they can go up and rent those. It's not owned by the college or anything like that, but we have a third party that the
Oh,
college,
like the zip car.
yeah, the zip car. Mhm.
We've got a lot of questions on financial aid. And so I'm going to try to summarize those into one. So folks are curious, do you have 100% scholarships? How do I apply for financial aid? Is it available for international students? What other resources do we have that's available? So one of the things is that Reed fulfills 100% of demonstrated need. But what does that mean? That means when you turn in the financial aid, we figure out how much money you need, and we will give you everything you need. Yes, that's actually unique at schools. There are only about 100 schools that meet full demonstrated need for every student who applies. And if we do that, that means we're going to be taking care of you, not just in terms of paying for school, but we got things like an emergency fund for clothes. If you need emergency fund for traveling home because someone got sick and you really need to be there, we've got resources to take care of you. If you want to go to conferences, like our linguistics department offers a pre-reimbursement, giving you money before to help you pay to take advantage of educational opportunities. So it's not just financial aid, but it's covering everything. You'll hear about, if you make less than $100,000, most families will receive tuition-free education here at Reed. So if you got normal assets, anywhere from 100 to 200,000, you're getting free tuition or free room and board. We've got a very generous financial aid system, and it is available equally for international students or domestic students. And we can help you seek scholarship and other opportunities. But what I usually say is this is a prospective student. Usually, your students are good based on our financial aid packages. So go to our website, do the net price calculator. This is something where you answer 6 questions and we tell you what the package would look like. And I think you'll be like, oh, okay, now I know it's going to be manageable. Something that we do really well. Hey, Dr. K, what do Read support systems look like for students who have um, who need medical assistance? And so maybe you can talk about the resources for if I get sick, what happens on campus, or how do we support mental health here on campus?
Yeah, great question. In student life, we have a couple different things, and I might probably expand that question a little bit more, Milyon, to also think about it
Mhm.
from a holistic perspective beyond
Thank
just the medical and the counseling side of things. But we have a full team of counselors and medical professionals. We call the location they're in is the HCC, which is the Health and Counseling Center, which is located on campus. We have everything from medical providers who do prescriptions and things of that nature. We have RNs, we have medical assistants, we have a handful of resources there. We have a psychiatrist prescriber as well, who provides support in collaboration with our counseling team. We have counselors, have a handful of counselors. And so even thinking about the needs of our students. We've invested in also a platform called UWill, which allows for virtual counseling to occur. And typically, students who utilize our partnership with UWill, typically it's lower level kinds of things that may be impacting students. And then oftentimes, students are seeing our in-person counselors for higher level kinds of situations that are occurring. And those things are typically, again, for counseling is short term. So we have a short term counseling model. And we also have a case manager to help our students if they need more long term care. So that's just one element, one piece. But when I think about student support overall, we have just a collective team that is there to help provide support for students. So before things even become a concern or a medical concern or even an academic concern, we have a we take a holistic approach to make sure that our students are feeling supported. And we have this thing called care referrals. And so faculty, staff members, your peers, our student peers, parents also can submit care referrals to provide support to put things on our radar so that we can do and provide support for students, and really helping them to navigate whatever they're working through. Again, it could be everything from academic to medical to counseling. And then another piece that I would also talk a little bit about is around disability and accessibility resources too. So we have a really phenomenal team of professionals in our Disability Accessibility Resources Office. We call it DAR for short. And again, they're there to help provide support. I know some of our admitted students and students who are beginning to deposit have already started to connect with DAR to start processes to make sure that they get support there. So again, like we're really looking at this more holistically when it comes to the I would say the 8 dimensions of wellness. We're thinking about a lot of different aspects and pieces, including the social experience that students have here at the college.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I've got a few questions that are coming in over our chat. We got 2 folks that are curious about our graduation rate. Um, and let's see, someone says, what are and want us to give a few context about the attrition rate. So, for your graduation rate, how many people finish in 4 years? That's something that we've been talking a lot about here on campus. But in particular, there's 2 things that are related to our 4 year graduation rate. Reed students travel further to go to Reed than any other college in the nation. Sounds like a strange place to start. That's a really cool statistic. That means, on average, the distance from your home to Reed is longer than any other college, and it's kind of cool. About 8% of our students are from Oregon. Then after Oregon, I won't name them all, but Washington, California, Colorado, Texas, Minnesota, Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, all these states are in our top 10. I think Florida might be the 10th. And as a result, you're going to find that there are people from all over the country, like many of you, and almost 10 to 15% in the non-COVID years, usually where students are coming from in terms of international students. It makes a really interesting campus. It makes it a diverse campus geographically in terms of backgrounds. For COVID, however, when COVID struck and people went home, what you'll find is that so many Reedies did actually leave and they went back to their home state. Some students continue to do the online thing, but you will see the impact of that for Reed in particular in our current four-year graduation rate. And so it's one of the things that we've been explaining to families. We believe next year you're going to see that jump up significantly, instantly, and it's more a result of our geography than anything else. I know some of you thinking that what's the big deal? Our four-year graduation rate is still in the top 20% in the United States. But, one of these families asked specifically compared to other excellent small liberal arts colleges. Yeah, absolutely. One of our goals is to make sure that our graduation rate is between 85 and 90%. Both Karnell and I are on the committee here dedicated to retention, persistence, and graduation. It is a focus. We have programming here. But I really want to separate what you all are seeing in the data and give context around this particular number and the fact that that is really the tail end of COVID that's impacting your campus in a different way. Schools where students were all kind of from the neighborhood, some could live at home and do the school thing. For Reed, it just looked different because our students are so much across the nation. The other thing, Colonel, did you want to touch base on anything about
Yeah.
that? The other thing that let's see, computer science. Someone said, tell me about the computer science as it's new to Reed and not as established in other programs. It's kind of tricky. It's not actually that new to Reed. People have been doing computer science here for decades. They were just doing it through the math department. So we have faculty who were dedicated to it. It became an official program and maybe a few years ago, but even before it became a major here at Reed, when folks did it through the math department, Reed still was in the top 10 production of PhDs per capita in the United States. It's not new. It's always been here. It's always something we've done well when folks have gone to computer science programs. Like I said, they've been in the top 10 production of any other program in the United States. And so I just want to make it clear that this wasn't something that just came about recently. It's always been a part of our fabric of our institution. And computer science has been our fastest growing department. So it is well staffed. We got plenty of faculty. During a period of about 2 years, it was growing really quickly. But right now, we have enough faculty to service the volume. And our folks don't have any concerns about the access. So really, really good questions. Dr. K, tell us what you find to be, for high school students, the most rewarding part about transitioning from high school and the most challenging part about transitioning from high school.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I have one answer that will answer for both of those in my mind.
Yeah.
It is your newfound freedom as a young adult in a way, and so part of that is that you have agency to make the decisions that you get to make, and as part of that, that is both sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing in some ways, and not necessarily a bad thing because you're learning to work through the consequences often of the decisions that you make. And so I think when I think about high schoolers coming to college, you get to meet, particularly at Reed, you're meeting some of the most amazing people that will eventually become the folks that you will look down the road and be like, oh, they're going to be at my wedding or they're going to be part of my friend group forever. I have those friends myself, so I know. But I do think that experience that you have in your first year is one where you're doing a lot of self-discovery in some ways. You're aligning yourself to again and reevaluating at times your values and things, and that's challenging. Some of you have never shared a room with somebody, and that's going to be challenging. I'm just saying. Some of you, oftentimes, again, I'm trying not to generalize here, but oftentimes when I talk to Reed students, I was just with a group of sophomores last week in New York City. We took students to New York City, and one of the things I was asking them about is like, okay, your shirt isn't ironed. You know, do I need to show you how to use an iron? So I'm thinking about those things, and so there's all the little things that come into play of just life stuff that is taken for granted. I would say. I know I took a lot of things for granted growing up, and then when I got to college, I was like, oh, I got to do this thing. Oh, okay. I have to learn that. So you'll be self-discovering things that you thought you knew that you don't really know. But the cool thing is that you get to do it with everybody else who's going through the same thing. So you won't be alone in it.
I love that. I love that response. Ty is so mad at me. He tells me I'm not supposed to laugh or make noise because we're recording this, and it messes things up. And so I'll put myself on mute next time. Let's see what else. This one's kind of this one's I'll take this one. Admission officers, what are we as admission folks looking for in the Paideia essay? And would it be okay for me to teach something related to my major? And so a lot of you know that for our application, we have something that says like, what would you teach during Paideia, this 10-day period on class where you can teach anything you like to the Read community. And one of the things that I tell folks is that our essay, our supplemental essay used to say something like, why do you want to go to Read? And people would answer it and they'd be super excited to say, oh, I love Read because when I did research on the internet, I learned this thing about it. And you would tell us that, and we'd be like, what? You know about us just because you looked us up on the web? But if your family went here, if you visited campus, we were like, oh, that's a great authentic answer. But I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes people fall in love with Read because you find us through a really good web search, because that's how you do your homework. So we didn't think that question was really getting at what we needed it to. So a bunch of folks met and we said, what is it that we're looking for in students? And it's what I said earlier, that curiosity, that passion. And it doesn't have to be passionate about a major, but just passionate about an idea and something that you love so much that you would want to teach it to other people. And Katie Sweeney in our office said, when the student gets excited, I get excited. And so if you're wondering what to do with that paideia, the college essay guy, Karnell, there's this guy on who goes and tells people how to answer college questions, and I read him. I'm like, no, don't listen to him. He's completely wrong. He's wrong. He tells you to do a lesson, and I was like, no, something you love. So I taught a class on caring for your comic books because I collect comic books. And so I like brought gloves in to show you how to take care of it. And I taught something on conflict resolution using the Tom and Kilman conflict survey. And Carnell, you taught some stuff too,
Yeah,
did
I did. I've done my hip hop and diversity course, which I think was really great to explore, current contemporary issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but then to tie that to historical, music, hip hop music. And so it was great. Our students loved it. I brought in my old boom box so they could actually see what a boom box looked like, which still works to this day. So it's still good. It's still good.
I remember the day I had to give up my boombox.
Oh,
That was a sad
well, I'm sure
time.
you can find one these days now.
That's actually true. That's
you know,
vintage. So that's what we're looking for in the Paideia. My favorite one was someone who I tell a longer version of the story, but he talked about being an apprentice for a welder who was welding artwork. He walked by a warehouse and saw someone doing this, and 6 months later they were standing next to them welding artwork. And I was like, that is so cool. They followed their passion. So that's the key. Um, let's see, Dr. K, could you talk about the roommate matching process?
yeah, that's a good one. When you are applying, so actually after you've made your deposit, you can then fill out a housing application. So once you made your deposit, we ask actually a series of questions and things of nature to help us with matching. And so we want to know all the things. We do get a little personal, and so we want to know things about your cleanliness habits. We want to know whether or not you're an early morning person or an evening person or whatever the case may be. So we ask a handful of questions. And then what we use is we have an algorithm that helps us pull all these things together. So before AI was big old AI, we were using algorithms. We figured out how to get really close to that. And so we do a really good job of matching and pairing up, and we weight certain questions in certain ways because we know that the behaviors that students have, these things tend to be more important than other elements of the questions that we have. So we have a sophisticated way of making that happen. The other piece of it is that you may have a friend that you're coming here with that you may know, and it's a great opportunity to be able to even live with them. But I would encourage you to find a new friend before you say you want that friend to be your roommate. Once again, they may have a different way of being at home than you probably are aware of. And so, again, I always encourage folks to think through that before they say, yes, I'm gonna just roommate with my friend who I know is coming here. Yeah, we got a good way of doing that. The housing office is really good at pulling folks together and all that good stuff. And if things don't work out, we have ways for you to engage with our area coordinators, which are professionals who live on site, to help navigate through that. So roommate agreements and all that good stuff. And then if all else fails, we have the ability to make roommate changes, and room changes. So there's lots of things in place there.
Thank you, Dr. K. Great. I have so I'm gonna, because financial aid was asked about so much, I'm just gonna make sure I touched on two things. Financial aid for parents after their students gotten admitted to read. So part of your application process, we're getting your financial aid materials. So once someone's admitted to read, we have a really quick turnaround, assuming your financial aid materials are complete, to give you your financial aid package. So if you don't get that within 2 weeks of being admitted, you should get in touch with us, make sure that everything has been submitted accurately. Again, I'll reiterate, we do offer financial aid for international students. What kind of financial aid? About 70 to 80% of it is grant money, money you do not pay back. The rest of it is divided between loans, student work, or maybe even federal funds that are helping to support finance. It's actually about the last 15%, but most of it is grant aid. Reed has the lowest student indebtedness in the state of Oregon and one of the lowest levels of student indebtedness in the country. We typically are about $10,000 lower than the national average, so really competitive financial aid. Um, Karnell, I can see we're coming up on time. We got a lot of good questions, so maybe a quick answer for this one. Does Reed have sports facilities or a gym? And maybe you could talk about what other athletic programs we have.
And while I do that, I'll also add a little bit around like how that plays into helping our students navigate through pressure and stress and all that good stuff.
That's great.
We just opened up our sports center after it had been closed for a little bit. The gymnasium had been closed for a couple years as we had to rebuild. So during in the what spring of 2021, so during COVID, um, Portland had a huge ice storm and our gym collapsed. Students had to go for a couple years without having a gym to actually play in and hang out in and all that good stuff. We reopened our sports center fully. So it's been updated, more sports, a new gym, more fitness rooms, things of that nature for our students. And it opened up in August. So students have been enjoying it. It's lovely. It's a beautiful space. Lots of programming happening. In addition to that, we offer, and as you probably are aware, Reed is one of the few institutions that require physical education courses. And so part of that is, again, building into the academic program courses that allow our students to slow down, allows our students to release stress and pressure that they may be experiencing. And so we build it in and require it. And folks may be saying, well, what if I'm not athletically talented to be able to do those things? Well, our PE classes have a range of types of PE courses. So you could be going to our director of community safety, Gary, does a course on bird watching and mindfulness. And it goes off at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's a full class, mind you, and it's always packed. He always has a wait list to get in his class for an 8 a.m. PE class to go bird watching through the canyon and all that good stuff and doing mindfulness. Tai Chi is another one, yoga. But we also have other courses too, that folks may want to experience. We do have club sports and intramural sports essentially. And so because we're not a Division I kind of institution or collegiate athletic institution, we don't have those kinds of sports, but we do have programs like rugby, soccer. Folks are out there playing against other institutions locally. So if you feel like you want to have some of that competitiveness, we have some of that as well for folks. So again, we got a little bit of everything. We got a racquetball court. We got, folks are playing volleyball, basketball. We have a weight room. We have jujitsu. We have a number of different things that are going on over in the sports center.
They compete
Skiing.
against other colleges, yeah, they can be
Mhm.
really competitive.
Yeah.
I so like we got a question, and I started talking about how students cope with the pressure and stress of the intense classes that can of the and stress that intense classes can often put them under. And that is something that I think one of the things we've done this year is have a lot of our current students in panels with a lot of our faculty. And one of the things that I've seen them illuminate time and time again is that this is a place that has a network for you. It's going to make sure that you don't fall through the cracks, that you don't crumble. Reed is not a place that is difficult for the sake of being difficult. This is a place that really does help you learn the material. And I've seen parent after parent talk about students who are coming here who are engaged in a really good way and loving it, that they're actually digging into the material. So I'm going to give you the example of what one dad shared just 3 days ago, just on Monday. He said, for my daughter, it's like um, I took all the people in her high school, and then there's some people who weren't really interested or engaged in the classes. Imagine they're not there, and imagine the people who aren't showing up every day are there, and the who are left are your friends who are like excited about class. You talk about what you learned in between class. You're enthusiastic, you do homework, you're engaged in conversation. Take that group and multiply it. That is who you have at Reed. And I thought that was a beautiful way to talk about the academic experience in a way that didn't talk about it being hard, but it talked about it being engaging. So then I had lunch with one of my students on Tuesday, and we are sitting next to each other in the amphitheater, and I was, talking about how his experience was, or how their experience was, and I ran this by them. I said, "This dad said this just yesterday," and the student looked at me and said, "Yes, that is exactly it. That is what's happening. That's why I love it." And so, what I want to express to you is that people are here and everything they're getting, they're excited about. We had a senior that says, "Hey, you know what? When I first got here, I wanted to compete in the stress Olympics, but I realized I don't have time for that." That
Mhm.
professors are here to help me manage it. There's tutor, you get a free hour of tutoring for every class every week here at Reed for free. You've got faculty. When Karnell and I walk out at night, sometimes we see faculty in the classrooms and students are coming in to talk about what they've learned. I had a student who said I was doing a problem set on the board, and I had three of my friends stop by and say, "Do you need help?" So
Mhm.
this is a place where you will have satisfying learning experiences and a support system in a wide variety of ways. Was that fair, Dr. K? Did I?
That's great. That is it.
Yeah. Let's see. I had a couple good questions. I want to make sure I get. Oh, here it is. Um, quickly, there's not an early decision program for transfer students, but transfer students can get an early decision for us. So there's a really quick turnaround process. The admit rates for transfer students actually happen to be higher than admit rates for first year students just because you have more directly applicable classes from a college. Dr. K, as a transfer student, is there a possibility for them to live in the German house or one of the language houses?
Yeah, yeah, those are all possibilities. I think part of it too, for our transfer students, I mean, they have sometimes more options in terms of the upper division space as well. So not just the language houses. They have some other options beyond just the language houses.
Awesome. When should I start looking for a campus work study job? Right in your first week orientation or shortly thereafter, we have what's called a job fair. And so all these campus offices that do employment, they're all around this room, and you just walk from table to table, and they tell you what it's like to work in their department or in their office or work in admission. And then you go through an application process. You might interview. My office does placements. So if you haven't been able to find a job, we'll help you find one. And you can work in the library where maybe you can do some homework at the front desk, or you can work in the canyon where you're out in nature and helping keep the path nicely navigable. What other student work jobs, Dr. K, do we have?
We have, I mean, I don't know if you said the library yet.
Hmm.
We have folks over in community safety. Folks who are tutors is also a job on campus as well. We have folks over in the sports center. We have students who work over at the sports center. Um, we have a lot. We got actually quite a few jobs. I know we're always asking our offices and others like, can you hire more students? Can you because I feel like students want to be working on campus, which is great. I would say the other thing to think about too and to share is that students who have a work study can also do community engagement and use their work study award off campus as well. And so some students may not want to work on campus. You can work off campus at a community organization that's typically a nonprofit that we've partnered with as opportunities too.
We've got a couple of admitted students who have some questions as they're making their final decision. Um, Student demographics in the school and in the physics program. Can I find many other international Asian students like me? Like I said, our students are a wide variety of background, ethnicities, cultures here. So yes, you're going to meet students from every walk of life here on campus. I think I mentioned some of the demographics earlier, in and outside of the major. And we do have a 3-2 program. What is the requirement? The biggest thing is that you meet with your physics advisor right away. Tell them you're planning on the 3-2 program. And here's the thing, some schools talk about the 3-2 program and they immediately start apologizing for it. No, Reed is a place where if you want to do the 3-2 program, you can do the 3-2 program. Probably the most common reason someone might not do the 3-2 program is their junior year. They might say, "Oh, I really want to hang out with my friends," or I don't want to leave. And honestly, it's more so that than anything else. But on our website, we have a really good 3-2 engineering program where we have a student who was just admitted into a 3-2 program. We have a student who's about to graduate from the other institution, having taken their 2 years. We have a faculty advisor and someone from the center um, for teaching me on help me out, Cardell, for
The Center for Life Beyond Read.
for Life Beyond Read, and someone for Center for Life Beyond Read who advises you. It's an excellent video. I hosted it and check that out. But yes, you can do the 3-2 program and take advantage of it. All the grad school statistics I said still apply to things like engineering, pre-med, pre-law, and pre-med. Dr. K.
There's a question I think I'm looking at seeing one where about being involved in performing arts if there are none majors. And I think that's one of the coolest things about REIT too, is that a lot of our students are engaged in the performing arts who are not majors in the performing arts. So whether that's dance or theater productions, it's really cool to see our students use that also as an outlet in some ways to switch up their schedule and things of that nature. So yeah, it's another cool feature of the college.
How would so many good questions, so little time. Um, can you talk a little bit about resources for LGBTQ plus students and how housing might work in terms of considering gender and gender identity?
Yeah. I feel like when folks think about Reed, I do think they think about the gender diversity, the nature of queer identities on our campus and things of that nature. And so one of the great things that I am really, I think, proud of is that, we create the space and venue for our students to be themselves, and to feel celebrated and supported. You often see this in not just in the services that we offer to provide support to students, but just even in the programming that happens that is, again, that we believe is relevant to various identities, particularly our LGBTQ plus community. Whether it's drag shows and all the fun stuff that comes along with that, or on the other side, the more serious pieces, providing gender affirming care to our trans students on campus, making sure that they feel supported and taken care of there. Even our trans inclusive working group that does programming and also providing resources to the trans community here on campus. They're just doing some really phenomenal and good work that I think our students are also a part of helping too. So that's the great thing I really appreciate about Reed, that it's not just in isolation of like the staff members are doing these things, that it's done as a collective, as a community collective effort. So that's one piece of it. I think the other element too around this is we have plenty of space on campus, and so oftentimes when folks are filling out that questionnaire again for wanting to live on campus, we ask lots of questions. And again, we do ask, do you want your own room? Do you want to be paired up with someone? Do you want again, what are the living styles and things of that nature that are important to you, so that you have a good your room becomes your home, for your time away. And so we want to make sure that folks are feeling good and feeling comfortable in their own room and in their own spaces. So we again ask lots of those questions on the questionnaire. Um, and again, I always say, I go back to the numbers a little bit. About half of our students identify as LGBTQ plus in some way. So it's like it's really great again to see that we have the spaces, we have the community, we have a queer collective community in the residence hall as well, where folks who identify or have an interest in learning and all of that, as well as allies, can live on the same floor. So yeah, there's some really cool, lots of cool things that we're doing in that space.
Thanks, Dr. K. So for I'm going to answer a few quick academic questions. So pre-med, like I said, the pre-med statistics are exceptional, like all of our grad school statistics. A lot of this is captured in the way we're teaching for people to capture and understand the information, not just regurgitate and teaching for the grade. The resources are the Center for Life Beyond Read, advising through faculty, advising, pre-advising, setting up pre-professional programming. So you have a list of things that you have to cover in order to complete this path to medical school or other pre-professional programs, including talking about when you'll do an internship, when you're going to do research, when you're going to do work in the field. So we are working to help map that out at the beginning of your career. For flexibility in classes and taking programs, you do have a lot of flexibility in what classes you take and taking courses. If you do, of course, have your core curriculum, but we're a liberal arts school. And the idea is that you come here, that you're going to learn in different departments. And the curriculum, the very nature of our curriculum allows for you to do that. Um,
I've heard just recently, I was chatting with a faculty member on Monday, and they gave the great example of like, you think about the education program here at Reed as like a T. So you have both the breadth and then you also get a chance to get the depth as well. And so again, to your point, it's like you get a chance to learn a lot of different things, be engaged in a lot of things, but also you have an opportunity for your major to learn a little bit more depth.
mhm. Karnell, how would you, we can probably, I was going to save this for the end, but I think it's going to be a fun question to ask now. S- People are asking, how would we describe the culture, or maybe more so the atmosphere at Reed? And so if you had to synthesize something that really, words that speak to our values, what would you say?
Yeah. I would say Reedies care about Reedies. And what I mean by that is no matter where you go. So you're part of this, you become a part of this network, not just your peers on campus, but much larger, the alumni community. And so oftentimes you're seeing that folks are willing to support students, get them connected, find the opportunities or connect them with opportunities and things of that nature. On campus, you feel that as well. Like our students care about each other. And so when things are happening or things are going on, you often hear, hey, my friend is going through this. Can you help them? Or you see your peers submitting care referrals because they care about their friend and they want them to get support or help. Again, I see that caring nature of our campus community is really a core element. And that is also connected to community. So being a community member, and I think when we talk about your essays and things of nature, we want to know: are you going to be a good community member for folks and for your peers, and not just your peers, also with faculty and staff, because we want you to be part of this, not in isolation or othered in any kind of way. So I think that sense of care, sense of connection, and I just say our students like to have fun. So I think
Yeah.
that's another part of this. It's like just because our students are studious, they're smart, they're talented. They spend, yes, they do spend a lot of time in the library, but they also know how to have fun. And that fun extends to all the programming we do, like the number of programs that students are planning for themselves as well. Like they want to have fun. And so going to college isn't just about the books, it's also about the fun stuff. And whether it's dances or it's again going up and skiing, or it's taking a hike, or it's listening to music on the lawn, on the great lawn, or is it hiking the canyon? So I think there's so many elements of how we define fun, or it's reading comic books, or because we have the mill on campus. If you when you come to campus, the mill is our comic book library on campus. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Nice. So if you want to looking it down here, it's our list of questions, and we're making really good ground. A couple more sort of financially associated questions. If you own a home in California, how does that figure into financial aid? Um, our financial aid does take into account that you all live in different regions, and so it impacts you differently depending on what state you're from. So we do cap the impact that your home equity will have on your financial aid package. And that is music to your ears if you live in California, where you know that owning a home for a long time has great variability in terms of the value that it's worth based on just you having been there for a long time. So, yep, we get that. And we get that in other places too, where that is a thing. And so we do have variable plans depending on what region you're from. So regionality will make an impact on your financial aid. There are payment plans for tuition, 9 or 10 month plans, monthly payments you can make. So you sign up for a tuition program, and whatever that remaining cost, we will break it up. And so there's different ways to manage that, and we like to work with families and work that through. What type of research is available for CS math majors? The world is your oyster. Like Karnell sort of alluded to this. You can do research on campus, off campus, a Fulbright Scholar, Rhodes Scholar, Goldwater Scholar. It is quintessential part of most of your read experience, and not just for math and CS, but also the humanities. And so those are relationships. So Center for Life Beyond Read, their goal is to meet with every first year student. That is their goal. And if they don't get to you your first year, they're going to see you your sophomore year. And their goal is to map out your academic trajectory, including these educational programs. And so we will help you understand exactly what that's going to be like for you. Dr. K, someone wants to know if we have a chess club, and if not, if they can add one. Oops, you're on mute.
All right. Sorry, but hey, we still haven't gotten it figured out, right? It's
No,
2025 and it's still
it's only been 5 years.
only 5 years. I was gonna say we do have we I was gonna say we do have, I believe we do have a chess club. I'm just clarifying because I was just talking about chess just recently. So, but if we did not have a chess club, it still is easy for you to make a club. It just takes a handful of folks to come together to create a club. And the other cool thing, or I guess one of the other cool things, is that our clubs, fluctuate because they're student driven and student ran. And so if sometimes chess is the thing that's really exciting for folks, and sometimes it may not be. And so students can kind of, the clubs come and go based on the student demand and the student interest in this space. But we have lots of clubs. At the beginning of every semester, we do a club and org fair, and so the call auditorium is filled with all the student clubs and organizations that are trying to get you involved and engaged. And I guarantee you there's something here for you. At least one of those clubs you will probably find and love. But then you may say, oh, I want something more specialized or more specific. And you can create that club and work with our student senate to get funding for your club. So there's a lot of options and a lot of available, again, a lot of clubs, but a lot of options to create and start your own club if you want your own club.
Dr. K, what's your favorite club?
Underwater basket weaving. I'm just kidding.
Are you though?
Well, I don't like swimming, so that ain't my favorite club. I don't think I would survive that one.
I know. Did you know someone
But
taught a Paideia that was underwater basket
yes,
weaving?
yes.
Yeah,
I would say the Cheese Club is a good one.
that's my favorite.
The Cheese Club is good. I do like we have we also have just a number of affinity clubs as well, affinity group and affinity clubs. And they just do some really cool programming that I love seeing. And part of it is that they just they figure out how to just come together in community and connection, and that's really fun. My other favorite one that's a little out there is our flame throwing club.
Oh, weapons of mass distraction.
Uh-huh. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
During Paideia, they not just during Paideia, during Ren Fair, and then during certain parts of the year, they have shows where they do kind of nighttime fire throwing performances, and it's pretty cool with how they. I mean, it's just really fascinating. Like it's really cool. They have music they choreograph the the flame throwing. It is pretty neat. It's pretty neat.
It's kind of amazing. Before people leave, I'll put it up on the screen.
Yes.
You'll actually get a chance to see it. Let's see. Um, I'll answer this really quickly. Well, we don't have an education department. We certainly have plenty of people who teach when they're done here. So education might be something they pursue afterwards, or it depends on what kind of educational institution they go to. You can create your major, but what I'll tell you is this. Reed is a place where most students have one major because right now, when you think about what your interests are, some people think, oh, I have to do a major and a minor. And what'll happen at Reed is they'll probably sit down with you and say, what do you want to learn? What do you want to study? What are you curious about? And they'll put together a sequence of classes that satisfies your educational curiosity or your educational goals. Sometimes that might be a major and a minor, or a combined major or interdisciplinary, and sometimes it's not. It's just meeting with this professor, taking a sequence of classes, and honing that might come together in your senior thesis. So I say that because often I think creating a major seems like an output if you don't see the name of what you want to do. But what I would encourage you is to sit down with your faculty member and say, how do I study that here? And if it does end up being a contract major, then they will petition for that particular major. But chances are you're probably going to be able to hit your educational goal through the series of classes that you take here. And I think we have time for one more question. And this one I saved for last, Karnell. What is the best thing about attending Reed College, and how will my success be measured as a Reedy?
That is a
Is
that's
that
a
good?
that's a good question.
That's a good one.
That's a
Yeah.
good question. Um, I'll let you start.
No, I gotta find the picture. Okay, I will start. What's the best thing about attending Reed? I think a college that has traditions is really special. I was with a group of my colleagues. They were like, I spent a lot of time trying to make my school distinctive and special. Reed is distinctive. We have a personality, we have a culture, and there are traditions. Like Carnell was talking about the Great Reedy Bake Off. It is my favorite tradition at Reed because it brings students, faculty, and staff together. And one of the things, once you understand this, you'll get Reed. People care about this college and they care what happens to it and they care about its trajectory. and you're going to meet people that are passionate about making sure its success continues. That's really cool. It means people aren't dialing it in. It means people listen. It means that they participate when we're moving towards change. And how is your success measured as a readie? One of the things I try to capture with students is the educational atmosphere. Some of y'all have heard me say this. Read students aren't performing for a grade. They are acquiring the knowledge and making sure that they have comprehension and understanding. And so how they're measured is not if they got an A, B, or C. They do get grades. We de-emphasize it, but you do get grades. But your measure as a readie is like, do I feel like I captured that concept? Do I feel like I understand that? Do I feel like it's actually, that I can maintain knowledge of this in a way that I feel comfortable with? That's a real personal way to think about your education. And your faculty are your partners in that process. That's why we call all of our faculty by their first name. So so that's what I think is one of the best things about attending Read, and that's a way in which I think that your success is measured.
I'm just making a note here for folks because I put in our link to our full list of clubs, but I realized this is the one that goes to um, our it's behind our login for when you're on campus.
Oh, okay.
I put in the sampling of student led groups again 90 different student clubs and organizations. I know there was a question about a running club as well. There's a running group on campus. It's actually a PE class that folks can take
Mm,
for that too. But to your original question, I also am a big I love the traditions at Reed too. I think that is just core to our campus. And I'm not gonna give up I'm not gonna share all the traditions because sometimes it's a good surprise when you see some of the traditions that we have. But that is one that I think, I mean, I even go back to my own college experience and we didn't have the kinds of traditions that we have here at Reed, and it just makes us special and unique. I would also say the other thing that I is like best value about Reed is our canyon. And
mm,
while I talk a little bit about like, Gary doing the bird watching and mindfulness class throughout the canyon, one of the things is that I park in the residential neighborhood on the residential side of campus, and I walk across the Blue Bridge. And I walk across the canyon every day, and it's just a moment to just pause and stop when you're crossing the bridge, and you're like, either you hear the ducks, or you hear the geese, or sometimes they're flying over, and you're trying to make sure you don't get any poop on your head, or whatever the case may be.
that's
Um,
never happened.
that's what it has not happened, but I keep seeing poop on the bridge, and I'm like, okay, something is happening. Um, so
Welcome to Read.
I know, welcome to Reed. That's right. That's another really cool thing that the canyon is actually a good centering space for folks.
Mhm.
It's very much centering for me. So that's one of the other best kept secrets about Reed, and it's so kept a secret that our community members come through just to hang out in the canyon too. So, which is great. I'm trying to see what else did you have in that question for me?
No, that you got it. You
All
got
right,
it.
all right.
And before folks leave, I want to share my photo. This is weapons of mass destruction. This is actually one of their performances, and you can see it's like they're twirling the fire around. You can see this online. It's super cool. They've got over 100 students 100, I heard 120 students that are involved in that club.
That's a lot. I mean, when
So
we do Ren Fair, they take up the
that's
whole
a lot.
yeah, they
Yeah.
take up the whole amphitheater. When we do Ren Fair, the students are like fill up the amphitheater. Like people are way in the back, like just standing to be able to see the show.
It's incredible. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I know I just knew by the registration you're coming from all over the world. We've got a lot of international students here. Thank you for taking time to be here. And for our prospective students who haven't gone through the process, I know there's a handful of you. For our admitted students, we have a lot of programming coming up, and our goal is so you can get a good feel of who the senior year version of you at Reed. Listening to everything we have to offer, what is that senior year version of you based on the stories that we share and how they'd impact your life? Contact your admission counselor if you have any questions. Contact us. I'd love to see you on campus before everything is all said and done. But I hope you all have a good night. And thanks, Dr. K. I
You're so
appreciate you.
welcome. I'm so glad I was able to help answer questions. And again, looking forward to seeing all of our new students in August. I'm ready for them to be here.
I know I'm going to be here soon. All right, y'all. We'll see you later. Have a good night. Bye bye.